Hello, and welcome to the 130th episode of Movie and TV Talk. On this episode, I am going to be discussing and giving my thoughts on Pacific Rim and its less favorable sequel, Pacific Rim Uprising. Let's get into it. I don't really think I need to describe the plot of the movie, but I'll do it as short as possible. The movie starts with a whole thing about how and why the Jaeger program was developed, and how we were good at winning really early on. Of course, that all changed when bigger kaiju kept coming through. Now we're losing, and things are so bad that the Jaeger program is in danger of getting shut down in favor of giant walls. Our main character, Raleigh, and his brother are called into action, but they end up losing the battle, and brother and their Jaeger gets pretty beat up. Raleigh gets various jobs on one of those walls when Stacker Pentecost shows up to recruit him back as a pilot. As Gypsy Danger's pilot, he co-pilots, ends up being Mako after some struggle that I need not get into. The two get their first fight and are successful at thwarting two kaiju. They then enact their plan to send a nuke into the breach. There's a lot of struggle with Stacker and Herc giving their lives so that Gypsy can make it into the breach, detonate the nuke, and the pilots make it back all safe and sound. Yes, I skipped a lot, but most people have seen this movie, and I just don't want to spend a lot of time detailing the whole plot of this movie. And that is because I think it's a really good movie that is worth watching and experiencing. Sure, it's not perfect, no movie is, but it is worth the watch if you ask me. First area I want to talk about is the Jaegers and the nature of their designs. You have something like Striker Eureka, a Mark V Jaeger that is slimmer and faster and digital and has weapons to match with chest rockets and arm blades. You have Crimson Typhoon, a Mark IV Jaeger that is red, has 3 arms, and is piloted by 3 Chinese people. You have Cherno Alpha, a Mark I that is built like a tank in every possible way with big hands for punching, and is piloted by the 2 most Russian people you could ever find. Of course, you have Gypsy Danger, a Mark III Jaeger that is very balanced, has plasma cannons and a chain sword. The point that I'm trying to make here is that all of these Jaegers look different and are built for different aspects of combat that makes them easy to identify on their own, even if they didn't last that long in the movie. Every kaiju is the same way in the movie too, all having distinct looks. That is, of course, brings an array of diverse characters as well. You have 2 Australians piloting Striker Eureka, 2 Russians piloting Cherno Alpha, 3 Chinese people piloting Crimson Typhoon, and our heroes Mako and Raleigh piloting Gypsy Danger. And these Jaeger teams are held together by Stacker Pentecost, which is pretty much the most action movie sounding name if I've ever heard one. Like, even if the beginning of the movie didn't tell you that the world had to come together to deal with kaiju, you could tell just by who is piloting each Jaeger. Of course, I can't talk about this movie without mentioning the score by Ramin Djawadi. The movie has such good music all throughout that it's worth listening to the score on its own. At the end of the day, Pacific Rim is one of my favorite movies and definitely worth watching, whether it's someone's first time or 10th time. It's just really good. Now, moving on into Pacific Rim's more disliked sequel, the sequel that we all want to forget about, Pacific Rim Uprising. Now, this movie starts out pretty jarring because our new main character is Jake Pentecost, son of Stacker Pentecost, and the only other characters in this movie that was in the first is Mako, but she gets killed off, and those 2 scientist guys. Raleigh is mentioned a few times, but isn't in the movie. The plot centers around one of the scientist characters because he's now evil because the precursors are controlling him and takes advantage of these drones and make them controlled by kaiju brain to open up breaches and bring a bunch of kaiju through because the precursors are so bent off on killing off all of the humans and claiming Earth as their own for some reason. Either way, our heroes all come together and save the day as you'd expect. They put something at the end to kind of tease that there could be a 3rd movie, but nothing ever happened. Again, it's a very short and probably rushed synopsis, but the movie's plot is whatever. It's fine. It's very easy to say that Uprising didn't hit as hard or as well as the first movie did, And it's pretty easy to see why, if you ask me. Personally, the characters like Raleigh never returning didn't help. The surprise that Stacker Pentecost just has a son for some reason now. Like, where did that come from? It obviously was never made clear in the first movie since Stacker died. Like, when did he have time to put a bun in the oven, so to speak? We have girl that made a junk bot that was obvious, unlikely hero, because of course she was. Little Miss didn't want a pilot, and then is forced to be a pilot and is really good at it and saves the day because of course she does. The other characters are really just background characters, even yelling Russian girl, because outside of Jake and the girl, that I can't remember her name, none of the other characters really matter at all that much. The Jaeger designs are definitely not on par with how they were in the first movie. The worst has got to be going from Gypsy Danger in the first movie to Gypsy Avenger in this movie, and it doesn't work. Gypsy Avenger is way too slimmed down, doesn't have that unique feel that Gypsy Danger did, especially around the other Jaegers. Even the one that was supposed to be bulky, but like it's the one that has like the big spiky ball hand. Like, it's still too slim to compare. Saber Athena is just another very slimly designed Jaeger that doesn't have that much going on. Just kind of slides in with all the other slimly designed Jaegers in this movie. As does Obsidian Fury, which is a shame because it's probably my favorite Jaeger from this movie, and in my opinion the coolest Jaeger in this movie. Not overall, just in this movie. Again, the Jaeger designs in this movie they don't feel as unique as they do in the first movie, and it's truly a shame. It's also a shame that the score for this movie doesn't hit quite like the first one. The music felt very generic except for one track that sort of calls back to the main track in the first movie, but that's about it. Overall, Pacific Rim Uprising just isn't the sequel that anyone wanted to a good movie. The only plus is that from this we got the anime, Pacific Rim the Black, that has done a pretty good job in my opinion of carrying on from where Uprising left off, but it is a shame that Pacific Rim the Black went 2 seasons and is over and done with, and I don't think we're going to be getting anything new out of the Pacific Rim franchise for a very long time, if ever again. But that's all I have to say, so if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.